Hello, this is Brian Hegney, instructor of game design at High Point University. And our last video ran a little bit long, but so I'm adding a second one about variables. And some people have more experience with programming than others, and so I want to make sure I go slow enough for some of you. And if this is way too slow for you, you can obviously skip make this go faster. But what I want to do now is introduce this idea. And yes, we're just printing things to the screen so far. Don't worry, it will get more amazing. I want to catch people up with these variables. But right now, we had this one that was a variable, and I'm going to drag this out here. Door location. I'm going to drag it into my event graph, and I'm going to say get, right? And I just want to point out this door location is the same thing as that, right? These are kind of the same thing. One is just storing all of the values, and one is you're putting values into it. And just to see that, let's go ahead and drag a node from door location out, and I'm going to type the word break. And the object here, because it's context sensitive, says break vector. Yeah, if I uncheck this, there's a lot of different breaks, but that's why this is good sometimes, context sensitive. So let's break the vector and let's see what it's made out of. X, Y, and Z components. Now, to get really in deep into Unreal Engine, this vector is really just a struct, what they call a struct, which is a collection of 3 components. It just so happens that we can use a 3-component vector to talk about location, X, Y, and Z. Okay, so X, Y, and Z. X, Y, and Z. That's what this is. So I'm going to kind of delete that. Now, here's the cool thing. Let's make this dynamic. Let's say it's going to print a string of the location, but it's not just going to do this because not every door is at 15122. And what happens if you move the door, right? You obviously would not be 15 whatever 22 anymore. So let's go ahead and do that. We are going to do a little thing here first. I'm going to kind of move these over, move this over here. What we need to do here is kind of calculate where the door is. So let's grab the door from the components. This is where the fun happens. We can drag this door here, and this will get us a reference to this door. Now, if you drag off of this blue thing, we can do a lot here. We can say get. We can say get move ignore actors. We can get children components. We can get mass. We can get mass scale. We can get all sorts of things. Did I do something with physics? We can say get physics. We can say get physics linear velocity, right? We can just grab stuff that's being calculated about this object all day long. But what do we want to get? We want to get location. So let's get location, and this is where I need to remember location. There we go. I want to get world location. Now, there are 2 types of location. There's world location and relative location. Right now, is it only allowing me to get world location for some reason? That's interesting. Get world location. Can I get relative location? If I say get relative, no. Interesting. Okay, well that's fine, because I just want to get location. Get location. Oh, right. Because if you don't type the right one, get world location. There we go. Now this, look at that color. Return value of get location. This is like an orange-yellow color. Do you remember what color, what type of variable that is? If you're looking at the screen and you see that the return value is a vector, hey, you're right. I could drag this out. I could actually say break vector again, and it would break it into X, Y, and Z. But I don't need to do that necessarily. I'm just going to plug it into here. And once you plug in get location and plug it into this vector variable, it knows where to put the x's and the y's and the z's. I'm going to drag these down here. And we will be using vector variables a lot. It's for locations in 3D worlds. And even your 2D games in the Unreal Engine are going to use Z as well. Once we do that, and we play this, and we walk up to our door, guess what that location is going to play? Well, here it's going to play the real world location. So this door is going to have a different location than this door, and you can see that they do. One has an x of negative 760, the other has an x of negative 550. So that's how you make these dynamic. And I'm going to go back and delete this door handle. I really hate it. I'm just going to select it here and hit the delete key. There we go. Compile that and save it. So while I have you with me, I'm just going to have a little bit more fun. So let's go ahead and learn a little bit more. I'm going to add another type of variable, and I'm going to click New Variable or Plus Variable, and obviously goes to the last type, which is a string. I actually want this to be an integer. Let's click integer. And you know what an integer is? It's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait, is 0 an integer? Yeah, I think so. I might call this door num. And that'll stand for door number. And I'm going to go ahead and say print string again. And I am going to, you know what? I'm going to add another string. And this string is going to be called, you know, I'm going to call them all announce. Announce door num. And that string is going to compile it so I can type it. I'm going to say number of doors. And so this little thing that's going to print to my screen is going to say, hey, there's so many numbers of doors. And what I'm going to do here is say, okay, after that, I'm going to print another string. And I'm going to set this up to be doorknob. Get doorknob, which is an integer, and that's going to be the number of strings or number of doors that there are, right? And so if there's 2 doors, I could select doornum, which is an integer, and just click over here under default value. Again, if you don't see any default values, you have to compile. I could type the number 2, right? And as you know, I could click play and I could walk around. I gotta move my player character. There. Number of doors, 2. It kind of prints right there. Number of doors, 2. Okay. But once I add a new door, that's going to be a liar. Because there's 3 doors. Okay. So let's just learn a little bit about a couple more functions that are fun. In between these two, number of doors, I'm going to want to do a little function called get all actors of class. Get all actors of class. Give myself a little more room. And what class do I want to get all actors of? Well, this is new to all of you, so just don't worry if you don't know. I'm going to get all actors of class bhdoor_bp. That's me. That's this class here. So I'm going to say bhdoor bp. There. Get all actors of class. Now, it doesn't do anything with that yet. It's just going to get all of these actors. And this little square here, let me zoom in. This out actors, this represents an array of actors. So it's like the door 1, comma, door 2, comma, door 3, comma, door 4, comma, etc. And so I'm going to want to drag out here, and I'm going to say this is, I actually have done this a lot over the summer, so this may be a very common thing to do, but I'm going to type in for each loop. And what this is going to do, it's going to loop through. For each thing, it's going to do this thing. Okay, for each component in the array, it's going to execute this thing and do something. And when it's completed, I'm going to print the number. Well, what do I want it to do? I want it to add to the number of door. Oops. I want to say, you know what? Door num equals door num plus 1. So I'm going to actually compile this. Whoops. I'm going to click door num and set it to 0. Let's pretend there aren't any doors here. The number is 0. So after it goes to the first door, it's going to say, hey, while door 1 is open, I am going to get a get and get a set. I'm going to set door num to door num plus, and this is going to be an integer plus an integer. Oops, not that one. Sorry. Plus. Integer plus integer. And I'm going to say door num plus 1. I'm going to set door num to what it currently is plus 1. So in the first, and I'm going to drag that loop body up to that set function. So why am I doing this? Because when it's set to 0, whoops, just moving this around. When it's set to 0, it's going to go through the first door and say 0 plus 1 equals 1. It's going to go to the second door. It's going to go to the second door and say 1 plus 1 is 2. And it goes to the third door and it'll say 2 plus 1 is 3. And then when it's all completed, because there's only 3 doors, it's going to come output and say print door num, and it's going to print 3. So it's going to do that. It's going to run through every single door that happens to be in this level, right? I actually hope this works. I'm going to compile this right now and save it and really hope it works. If not, I will be a liar. There. Now, why does it say 369? Now, that is a good question. I actually know the answer. And see, if I keep going, it always increments in series of, series of 3s, right? Why 3? Well, that's a good question. 3, because I forgot to, every time I begin overlap, the first thing I'm going to do is actually say, oh, no, I won't do it there. I'll do it right before it tries to count how many doors there are. There. Let's do this. I'm going to say set door num. And this is another way to get those variables, by the way, is to just type them out and you'll have access to them. Set door num to 0. Now when I do that, every time that fires, it's going to first set it to 0, and then it's going to start counting all the doors in the scene. There, 3. Every single time. Number of doors is 3. And then if I say, you know what? Hey, here's another trick. I can select this door and hold down your Alt button and move it. It creates another door. If I play now, it should say 4. Yep, 4. So it's always going to count. Last thing, there's just another minute. Those of you who are programmers will already are wincing at what I did. And if you're not a programmer, you don't know and you don't care. But let me show you. Because another thing you can do in programming, and if you're writing in, let's say I'm doing a tutorial right now on JavaScript, making a very simple Pac-Man game in JavaScript. And so I know in JavaScript, to add 1 to a number, you type ++. So I just want to point out, if you take door num, let go, say get door num, num, you can type in, you can drag this out and say, if you tap the plus button, you have increment int. And for those of you who are programmers, of course, you will want that. Click it, it says ++. That is actually the same exact thing as this, right? This up here is a little clunky. This is what I used to do when I was first starting programming and say, hey, get the door num, add 1 to it, set door num to that plus that. Okay, we don't need to do that. We can just say door num increment addition, and it's the same thing. Compile it, save it. You'll notice it's the same. 4 doors. Yay. All right. In the next video, we will learn some real functioning, gameplay functioning. All right, bye!